Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopī Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari. Gopī Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari. Yashodanandana Brada Janadandana. Yashodanandana Brada Janadandana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopī Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari. Gopī Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari. Yashodanandana Brada Janadandana. Yashodanandana Brada Janadandana. Yashodanandana Brada Janadandana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jayam Vishnupat Paramahansa Bharivedagacchaya Sadhara Sadashi Shrimad Svainge Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Kuti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 32, text 14. Tatra upaviṣṭaḥ bhagavān saha īśvaraḥ yoga-īśvara antaḥ hṛdi kalpita āsanaḥ cakāsa gopī-pariṣad gataḥ arcitaḥ trailokya-lakṣmy-eka-padaṁ vapur dadhat tatropaviṣṭo bhagavān sa īśvaro yogeśvarāntar-hṛdi kalpitāsanaḥ cakāsa gopī-pariṣad-gato rcitas trailokya-lakṣmy-eka-padaṁ vapur dadhat tatropaviṣṭo bhagavān sa īśvaro yogeśvarāntar-hṛdi kalpitāsanaḥ cakāsa gopī-pariṣad-gato rcitas trailokya-lakṣmy-eka-padaṁ vapur dadhat trailokya-lakṣmy-eka-padaṁ Vaishnavis, īśvaro yogeśvarāntar-hṛdi kalpitāsanaḥ gopī-pariṣad-gato rcitas trailokya-lakṣmy-eka-padaṁ tatra, there, upaviṣṭaḥ, seated, bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saha, he, īśvaraḥ, the ultimate controller, yoga-īśvara, of the master of mystic meditation, antaḥ, within, hṛdi, the hearts, kalpita, arranged, āsanaḥ, his seat, cakāsa, he appeared resplendent, gopī-pariṣat, in the assembly of the gopīs, gataḥ, present, arcitaḥ, worshipped, trailokya, of the three worlds, lakṣmy, of the beauty and other opulences, eka, the exclusive, padaṁ, reservoir, vapur, his transcendental personal form, dadhat, exhibiting. Translation: Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whom the great masses of mystic meditation arrange his seat within their hearts, took his seat in the assembly of gopīs. His transcendental body, the exclusive abode of beauty and opulence within the three worlds, shone brilliantly as the gopīs worshipped him. So we continue till text 16. Here we have a purport. The masters of mystic meditation include Lord Shiva, Anantashesha, and other exalted personalities, all of whom keep the Lord seated within the lotus of their hearts. This same Lord, conquered by the intense, selfless love of the gopīs, agreed to become their boyfriend and dance with them in Vrindavan after sitting upon their fragrant shawls on the bank of the Yamuna river. Text 15. Translation: Sri Krishna had awakened romantic desires within the gopīs, and they honored him by glancing at him with playful smiles, gesturing amorously with their eyebrows, and massaging his hands and feet as they held them in their laps. Even while worshipping him, however, they felt somewhat angry, and thus they addressed him as follows. Text 16. The gopis said, "Some people reciprocate the affection only of those who are affectionate toward them, while others show affection even to those who are indifferent or inimical. And yet others will not show affection toward anyone. Dear Krishna, please properly explain this matter to us." Purport. By this apparently polite question, the gopis want to expose Lord Krishna's failure to properly reciprocate their love. They were very disturbed when Sri Krishna left them in the forest, and they want to know why he caused them to suffer in these loving affairs. Tatropaviṣṭo bhagavān sa īśvaro, yogeśvarāntar-hṛdi kalpitāsanaḥ, cakāsa gopī-pariṣad-gato rcitas, trailokya-lakṣmy-eka-padaṁ vapur dadhat. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whom the great masters of mystic meditation arranged a seat within their hearts, took his seat in the assembly of gopis. His transcendental body, the exclusive abode of beauty and opulence within the three worlds, shone brilliantly as the gopis worshipped him. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashadyade Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in these verses, the gopis describe different personalities, beginning with some people reciprocate the affection only of those who are affectionate toward them. So the so-called friends who show affection for each other only for the benefit of themselves are not true friends. What is that the saying, that proverb? A friend in need, a friend in need is a friend indeed. So that is a real friendship. If someone is in need, I don't expect anything for myself. I just help that friend. That's true friendship. Without any benefit for themselves, they would not reciprocate. So that's one type of a personality the gopis describe. Then the second type, others show affection even to those who are indifferent or inimical. Here we have the example of parents, for instance. They are, even if their children do not reciprocate their love and affection, they still continue to reciprocate. They continue to take care of them, even though there might not be much of a reciprocation. I even remember when my mother, she was very affectionate, and of course it doesn't sound very nice, but in the 60s, young people, they had this kind of certain mindset. So somehow I did not appreciate that affection of my mother, and I just left when I was 16 years old. But still she continued taking care, wondering how I'm doing, whether I'm well. That's the affection of parents. And then another type of personality is that they're just by nature merciful to others, affectionate toward others, just by nature. So that second class, it is supposed to be even superior. Just by nature, they are affectionate. And then the third type of personality the gopis describe is that yet others will not show affection toward anyone. Now later on I will describe a little bit how Lord Krishna begins to answer these questions of the gopis. These are those individuals, I just give a very short summary of Lord Krishna's explanation. These are those individuals who are either spiritually self-satisfied, materially fulfilled, or by nature ungrateful or simply envious of superiors. Such persons will not love even those who love them. What to speak of those who are inimical? So the last type of a personality, they have, in more modern language, psychology, they have no empathy, zero empathy. Sometimes when you talk to such people and you try to express your concerns, they rather carefully listening, they already think about what they are going next to say. They cannot hear. Because there's no empathy. They don't even try to understand. And often they use words like, anyway, just to brush off all these are so-called emotion stoppers or argument stoppers. Anyway, whatever. I think that's the worst word, whatever. So zero empathy. Empathy is the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of other persons. And the antonym, of course, would be to be insensitive. Insensitiveness, it is a great disqualification of a leader. In other words, the most important qualification of a leader is empathy. To genuinely try to understand what troubles people, what are their difficulties. The sympathy is completely different. You can show so much sympathy as you like, but you not necessarily try to help that person. I'm very sad. Yes, I understand you're very sad. There's sympathy. And then you walk away. But empathy means you take it a little more serious. And then you will question why you feel sad. That means you show some interest. That means empathy. There are 3 different types of empathy: cognitive, emotional, and a compassionate empathy. The last one is the most important one, because if there's some compassion, then that will result in action, trying to actively help or support that person. Have you ever had one of those days when you really were looking for someone who's listening to you? Have you had some? Who really tries to understand what bothers you, what troubles you, what concerns you? Anybody? You had a day like that? Yeah, the hands are going up. Bit by bit, more and more. Yeah. Sometimes we had those days. Well, if you had those days, then you definitely were in need of a healthy dose of empathy. Feeling heard and understood is a human need. Everyone needs to feel understood. Empathy helps us get in touch with our feelings and gives us an emotional understanding of ourselves and others. Now, if we can't even recognize the pain others feel, how can we take care of them? How can we support them? It's impossible. Bhagavad Gita, we have the prime example, because Lord Krishna, he perfectly knows how the illusory energy works on the conditioned soul. It is his own energy. And how much empathy he displayed, showed to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna revealed his mind to Krishna, that my mind is so restless, flickering. For me it's so difficult to concentrate. You described this yoga system, not possible for me. Krishna could have replied, anyway, whatever. No, he showed understanding, genuine understanding. He started a samshayam. Undoubtedly, that indicates that Lord Krishna, he attached some value on Arjuna's points, his feelings, his emotional state of consciousness. He thought is a valuable point. That's one very nice way to answer a question, for instance. If someone tries to express his concerns. Again, you could answer anyway, whatever, and then you just, memorize some shlokas. Or you can answer, this is a very interesting point you just made. Very interesting. Then the other person will feel encouraged. Wow, somebody really understands me. Somebody cares. Asamshayam, undoubtedly, Krishna replied, Manaha, the mind, Dunigraham. Excuse me. Dunigraham means difficult to curb. Dura nigraham, dura. Very difficult to control, curb the mind. Lord Krishna agreed. He did not say, Arjuna, you're just mental. You're supposed to be a kshatriya, come on, fight. No. He agreed. Yes, very difficult. But then that's not all, to just agree, and then what? Then Krishna gives a solution. He wanted to help Arjuna. It is possible, Krishna said. Although difficult, still it is possible. How is it possible? Abhyasena tu kauntaya vairagyena chagriyate. Abhyasa, by constant practice and detachment. Then it is possible to control, bring that mind under control, to curb the mind. Another example in the Bhagavad Gita is yate chasi tahakuru. Another nice example. That toward the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gave Arjuna so many instructions. And still he did not just toward the end demand from Arjuna to surrender. At the very end, of course, that's the final conclusion. Lord Krishna gives the final conclusion. But still he said, Yate chasi tata guru, as you like, you may act. He wanted Arjuna to use his freedom of choice, not just surrender. It's up to you. If you want to surrender, that's great. But if you don't want to surrender, that's your freedom of choice. That's your right, that's your individuality. Lord Krishna does not interfere with the freedom of choice of the living entity. So how can anyone else dare to interfere? Even Lord Krishna doesn't do it. But still Krishna was concerned, and therefore he did not stop there, do whatever you want, and then walk away. I mean, that's another way of showing no empathy. Anyway, do whatever you want, and you walk away. Krishna remained, he did not walk away. He said, well, because you're my dear friend. And then Krishna continued to instruct Arjuna. And then at the end, of course, he gave the final conclusion. It's just surrender. Then the gopis continued. Krishna, please say something to explain this matter as to who reciprocates with whom and who fails to do so. You should answer correctly. That this word sadhu is being used in the verse. Sadhu. Sadhu means properly, correctly. The sadhu, he should always behave properly. That's the indication of a sadhu. The sadhu must behave properly, correctly. So you should answer correctly without deviation from the subject. Now then, Lord Krishna, he explains what I mentioned before in more detail, all these different personalities. And he begins to describe the Atmarama. He is spiritually self-satisfied, he delights in the self alone, and forever looks within. Being spiritually self-satisfied, he does not reciprocate others' affection because he wants to avoid entanglement in mundane dealings. So that's a more detailed description of an Atmarama. Then Aptakama. Now Lord Krishna describes the Atmakama. Although he sees externally, he has satisfied all his material needs, Aptakama, and therefore does not seek enjoyment, any enjoyment from others. He's self-satisfied. Then Lord Krishna describes, very important, the Guru Druha. The Guru Druha, who is inimical to his superiors. He does not acknowledge what others have done for him, and rather shows excessive hatreds toward them for no good reason. Those who have some reason for being inimical, some reason, are called Alpadruha. There's a lesser degree, class of Guru Druha. And then Lord Krishna describes the Akritagya. Akritagya is an ungrateful person. Even though he desires sense gratification from others, he does not recognize when others are trying to help him. That's the meaning of ungrateful, being very ungrateful. Related to Guru Druha, Srila Prabhupada in one class, I will quote, because Srila Prabhupada in that particular class, he really raised his voice. He was literally shouting. I quote, Srila Prabhupada, "The sun is supplying you so much heat, warmth, and don't you want to give him some tax or satisfy him by sacrifices? So that is our duty. If you are receiving from me so many things, and if you do not at least acknowledge your gratitude, then you are a thief. We are receiving so many benefits through the agents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and if we do not acknowledge even God is great, He is so kind, in spite of our so many faults, He's supplying us nice foodstuffs, nice everything. So how much ungrateful the human society has become, just imagine. And they want peace and prosperity. Nonsense. Where is peace and prosperity? You must suffer, you must suffer, you must suffer." Srila Prabhupada ki. In addition, then Lord Krishna describes those who show hatred toward one who renders protection are also Guru Druha. And then the final definition of a Guru Druha, that those who actually harm those who are faithful, very faithful. So they are also Guru Druha. So these three types of Guru Druhi are those who have no respect for others at all. So all these examples were given by Lord Krishna as an answer to the three questions of the gopis. Then the gopis further said, Krishna, you are not among the examples given in your answers to the first and second questions. For you are not a selfish materialist, not a merciful devotee, nor a mother or father. Please tell us which of the type of Guru Drohi you belong to. Then Krishna answered, You want to hear my defeat from my own mouth? Inasmuch as I am Narayana, I am self-satisfied, Atmarama, and full in all desires, Aptakama. But as a son of Nanda Maharaj, I did not study the Niti Shastras. I am definitely akritagya, ignorant. But as Narayana, I am kritagya, all-knowing and also grateful. I am Guru Drohi for having hurt your feelings by leaving you when we enjoyed transcendental pastimes. But nevertheless, I am also not Guru Drohi, for I gave you the ecstasy of seeing my transcendental form, of having my darshan. Then the gopis replied, Then to which class do you belong? Lord Krishna answered, To none of these. Naham, Krishna used that word. Naham, none of these. Here the word tu, in that particular verse in the Bhagavad Gita, tu, that Sanskrit word tu, it expressed the introduction of a differing idea. And now this is very surprising. And it seems to contradict Lord Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna explains, Yiyatamam prapatante tam sadaiva bhajamyaham, that I will respond according as they, others worship me. But now Lord Krishna tells surprisingly to the gopis that I do not respond to any living entity that respects or worships me. Krishna says, I do not respond. So we obviously have to explain that. And Lord Krishna will explain. First the gopis asked, but how is this different from the group Guru Drohi you previously explained? Now Lord Krishna begins to explain what he meant by he will not reciprocate with anyone who worships him. For those surrendered souls who worship me through Nama Kirtan and other means, I do not respond in order to make their worship more perfect. Not seeing me, those surrendered souls develop deep humility, feelings. Alas, everything I have done has been useless because I'm an offender. Krishna has not shown even the slightest favor toward me. Let me be damned. By constantly thinking in this way, those who have not yet developed mature love for me will become free from lust, anger, and awaken pure devotion, full of power and brilliance. However, the nature of those who already have mature love for me is different. For them, I do not respond. In order to increase their attachment to me, I appear and then disappear. In order to deepen their loving attachment. Just like sometimes we give the example of a poor man who somehow gained a massive wealth and then he is losing it again. So that poor man who temporarily became rich, wealthy, he will constantly think and meditate on the previous wealth he possessed. He can hardly think of anything else. So that is Lord Krishna's purpose, that he appears to the devotee in whatever way. Krishna can appear in so many different ways. but also he can reveal, manifest his transcendental form to his devotee if he chooses to do so. And then, and then he disappears. In one purport, Srila Prabhupada writes in that section of Srimad Bhagavatam that the Lord appears and disappears according to his relationship with the devotee. We have the wonderful example of Narada Muni that describes it in a perfect way. As soon as he began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, being situated on the lotus of his heart, then the Lord appeared. Narada Muni could see the transcendental form of the Lord. Every part of his body became separately enlivened. All the senses fully awakened to render loving service to the Lord. Actually, that's the constitutional function of all the senses, to always render service to Krishna. Upon losing sight of that form, Narada suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. Like that poor person losing his wealth. He desired to see again that transcendental form, Narada Muni. But despite his attempt to concentrate on the heart, he could not see that form again. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that we cannot force the Lord to appear. And he gave the example of the sun. We cannot just demand that the sun is rising in the morning whenever we want. The sun appears in the sky out of his own accord. That is Lord Krishna's position. We cannot force him to appear. Srila Prabhupada explains in that purport, one should simply await the opportune moment and go on discharging his prescribed duty in devotional service of the Lord. So that's the attitude of a devotee. He's just patiently waiting. Of course he's hoping, hope against hope. But as Srila Prabhupada describes here, he's waiting for that opportune moment. That moment will come. But we cannot force it. Then the Lord spoke to Narada with gravity and pleasing words, just to mitigate his grief. Now Lord Krishna, the Supreme Lord speaks, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. You have only seen my form once, just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires. It is all Krishna's plan. Then the Lord stopped speaking. Feeling a sense of gratitude, Narada Muni bowed down to pay his prostrated obeisances, dandavat, to the Lord in great gratitude. Now just imagine how fortunate we are. In Narada Muni's case, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he stopped speaking. He couldn't hear him anymore. Now we are so fortunate by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. We are so fortunate we can hear Lord Krishna's voice every moment throughout his books, everywhere. Bhagavad Gita, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Whenever we want, we can just grab Srila Prabhupada's books or other transcendental literatures and we can hear the voice of the Lord. How fortunate we are. And how much we should take advantage of it. Whenever we have a little time, rather thinking of what shall I do now, just grab a book and hear the Lord's voice, talking, speaking to us. Now Lord Krishna continues to explain, in this way I'm actually merciful. It is desirable for my worshippers to have this complete attachment to me. Thus, to increase that attachment more and more, I, even though externally failing to reciprocate with them, invisibly reciprocate very much with them. This reminds me, how much time we have left? Why is the time passing so fast? This Krishna's energy, we cannot force the time. We cannot, nobody can stop the time. We can take out the battery, whatever we want, the time will move on. This is Krishna. You cannot force. Now this reminds me of that beautiful story composed by Mary Stevenson long ago. In her teenage years, she wrote that beautiful poem, Footprints in the Sand. She had a dream. In that poem she describes she had a dream. In that dream, her life was flashing in front of her. And at the same time she could see two sets of footprints in the sand, her own footprint and the Lord's footprint, God's footprint. But then she describes in that poem that when she was in great despair, when she encountered the greatest difficulties in her life, she could only see one set of footprints, her own, not the Lord's footprints any longer. And then she describes in that poem that she addresses the Supreme Lord, "Why, when I needed you most, you have not been there for me?" The Lord replied, "The times when you have seen only one set of footprints is when I carried you on my shoulders." Wonderful, wonderful poem. But sometimes we cannot see how Lord Krishna is helping us in our spiritual life, in our endeavor to render service to Him, to bring our life to the final perfection. Sometimes we don't recognize, we cannot see. But we have to have that faith that Krishna is always helping as long as we are serious and sincere. These two words were mentioned the other day. Srila Prabhupada used these two words quite often, the serious and sincere. As long as we are serious and sincere, we can be assured that Lord Krishna will always help us. So Lord Krishna further explains, although you gopis are the ideal examples of those who worship even those who do not worship them, I too am actually very merciful, as much as you are, since I have given you the gift of my darshan. One should not think that only if I am present that I respond. And if I am absent, I do not respond. For then my promise, yatamam prapatante, I will respond accordingly as they worship me, would be broken. So that's the more internal explanation what Krishna meant by he will not reciprocate with those who worship him. He does reciprocate, but sometimes we do not recognize or we do not understand. Self-centered persons, they always want to see God immediately, because by this they expect an intensification of their desire to enjoy. So rather seeing the Lord to render service to Him, there's a desire to enjoy, to increase enjoyment. Or mukti, liberation. But only when one does not strive for one's own enjoyment any longer, Only when one wants to serve Krishna alone and nothing else, then the Lord will appear in that pure heart of the devotee. There's a very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yedaragara putrapta pranan vitam imam param hitva mam. Hitva mam means giving up unto you. But that giving up, it is also very, very, very important to understand properly. Because in many verses, especially also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that one should give up. Like in this verse, since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? So that giving up, it has to be properly understood. Giving up does not mean to run away. Some problem at home, I run away. Problem solved. No. The karmic reactions to my irresponsibility, they have longer and faster legs than I have. Karmic reactions, they run much faster. I can run wherever I want. They are faster. They will follow. They will catch me. They will get me. And I have to pay. So this giving up does not mean to run away. Giving up simply means to give up trying to enjoy it, but rather using it to give enjoyment to Krishna. That's the true meaning of giving up. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, attachment to home, wife, children, friendship, society, and love is not the way to achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can have homes and wife and children, society, love, everything, no problem, but they should be meant to give pleasure to Krishna, to turn the home into a temple, Krishna in the center, whole family, they should all render service to Krishna, then everything will be fine. Krishna will be very pleased. But otherwise we have to give up. If something does not please the Lord, that we have to truly give up. Even our best mundane worldly friends, we have to give up. Rupa Goswami, that's my final shloka. Rupa Goswami gives us a beautiful verse. Smedam bangitraya parichitam sachivistena drishtam vamshinyastadra kishalayam ushram sandakena govindakyam haritanam ita keshitutopakante ma prakshitas tavayadi sakki bandhu sange stirangaha bandhu sange. Worldly friends. So in that verse it is explained, my dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the bank of the Yamuna at Keshigat, casting his sidelong glances. He places his flute to his lips, which seem like a newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental form, bending in 3 places, appears to be very bright in the moonlight. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So we have 9 o'clock. The class is supposed to... Yes?
Quick question. So you said serious and sincerity. So is sincerity something we can adjust with our mind and our intelligence, or is that something that's just naturally spontaneous? Because sometimes we question our sincerity. I mean, what is sincerity? Is it something mental or intellectual, or is it something just our very being? A little bit more about sincerity.
You can explain. You can explain better than me, because you demonstrate every day your sincerity. Sincerity means to not give up. I don't give up. It might be very difficult at times, but I continue, render my service. Because I might claim I'm very sincere, but next day I'm gone. What is that sincerity? So sincerity really means to continue with the process, continue with your service, continue carrying out your duties. That's sincerity. You continue, you show it by practical example, you go on, you continue. Of course, we should always, at the same time, we have to be willing to be corrected in case we do something wrong, we do some mistakes. That anyway, I just go on the way I want. So some training also must be there, education must be there. But generally, to just that sincerity to go on with the process, to not give up. That's a display of sincerity. That's one way to explain it. They lowered my volume.
So the Prabhupada says sincerity means being focused.
Being
focused.
Focused. Yeah.
Just like a devotee should be focused on his goal, and he will do anything and everything to attain that goal. Also, you were saying about Krishna will appear at the right moment when he's
opportune.
Opportune moment.
That's what Srila Prabhupada said, at the opportune moment. Yeah.
But it's not the same though as that like of an armchair philosopher who just sitting down, don't do anything, and will wait for Krishna to come.
Yeah, they can wait forever.
So we have to do our duty, be focused, that's means of sincerity, sincere. Thank you, Maharaj.
The point is we have to give up that endeavor to see Krishna, to enjoy him. That we have to give up. So in that sense, we just have to wait. Because we cannot force. That's the main point, we cannot force. So that's not armchair philosophy, that we cannot force Krishna. We cannot force him, that's why we have to wait. Of course, at the same time, we have to utsaha, enthusiasm must be there. We have to endeavor, again, very sincerely, with all enthusiasm, but patience at the same time. So I think that's some indication. So we will...
Sincerely in the class?
I sincerely want to end the class by showing how this is being done in practice. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.